Hi there, and welcome to the Third Impact Anime Podcast, where we talk about anime, video games, and conventions, with a healthy amount of existential dread mixed in. You can find out more about our podcast by following us on Twitter at TI_anime, or just like us on Facebook to not see our posts, because that's just how it is now. Thanks again for stopping by, and enjoy the show! Hey everyone, and welcome to another excellent episode of the Third Impact Anime Podcast. I'm Austin, the host, as usual. And with me, I've got my fantastic co-hosts with me. I've got Bill.
Hey, how's it going?
And we've got Tobias with us.
Hey.
So we're just gonna do like a fairly simple like conversation episode this week, and or this particular episode rather, because I think we're gonna have multiple podcast episodes uploaded this particular week, unless we decide to hold this one for a rainy day. I don't know exactly what we're gonna do with it yet, but we'll just put it out there in time. But basically, the crux of the episode today is going to be, Bill has this particular series that not a lot of people have heard of, that's kind of obscure, that has never really made a whole lot of money, called One Piece. And he wants to tell us, me and Tobias in particular, as sort of like sit-ins for the general audience. He's going to tell us why we should, cut off all of our friendships and quit all of our jobs and just dedicate our lives to watching all 800-ish episodes of One Piece. Is that right, Bill?
That is right. It's got a cult following, like Angel's Egg or Legend of Galactic Heroes. It's kind of at that level.
It's been running as long as Legend of Galactic Heroes, right? Forever?
No, it's surpassed Legend of Galactic Heroes, where Heroes, I think, lasted for 8 to 10 years, and we just had we're probably on the 20th anniversary at this point, I believe.
Talking about One Piece or Galactic Heroes?
No, One Piece.
Yeah, something like 10 at this point, I believe.
10 for One Piece?
Well, I say that, but years flow into one big writing mass for me. So I've probably been saying 10 years for the past 10 years.
So 10 times 10 is 100. So that means that One Piece first premiered in 1918.
I mean, it was just like a year ago. Like, I was still in college and doing anime club, right?
In 1918.
Oh God.
Hey,
man.
It's fine, because just like you, comics does the same thing where they say, "Oh, that thing, it happened 10 years ago."
Yeah, I'm pretty sure I remember seeing the commercials for Civil War, not the movie, like the original Civil War event. On television.
Oh man. Well, before that, I guess we'll just go around the table real quick and just do a quick debrief. So, Bill, what have you been up to? What have you been playing or watching, or anything that's clicking with you right now?
My 3 big things of interest at this point is I have been watching Clanad with my friend Michael, and it's okay. It's very much a key visual novel adaptation, and it fits all the boxes, and I've been enjoying it. My goal is to get to After Story, because everyone seems to love that story, love that second season. My friend Michael hates it, and so I can't wait till we get to the second season where he will rant and rave, and it'll be a fun hate watch.
So how do you feel like it's holding up, like visually, and like are you being entertained by it?
I'm being entertained by it, especially by the side characters. Like, the main girl's family is very entertaining, 'cause her dad is pretty much like a Yakuza boss. And her mom is very cute and kind of forgetful, similar to kind of a ditzy character, which is fun. And every character kind of has their own quirky traits. Like the first girl that we dealt with loved Starfish. So anytime she sees a starfish, she'll just go after it and just go crazy. Or this one girl who will always be in like super over the top fights with the main character's best friend, uh, where he always loses. It's like Wile E. Coyote and the Roadrunner. Beep beep indeed.
So how many times in a regular like school day does a normal Japanese high school student run into a starfish?
Unless they're on the coast, I doubt very often. So I'm gonna guess maybe at a carnival or a school event.
So how does it work out in the show?
Oh, she just grew up loving starfish, and so what she does is anything that's shaped like a starfish, she'll go crazy about,
Oh.
or she will make wood carvings of starfish and just give it out to people.
Interesting.
Yeah.
Cool.
On the game side, I've been playing Shovel Knight to death.
Ooh.
Nice. That's a good one.
Yeah.
Have you played
Uh,
all the campaigns?
No, when I first got it, I kind of, as per usual with most things, I kind of dropped off and got distracted.
Yeah.
Really wanted to go back and finish it.
Oh, it's so good, man.
It is really good. I'm stuck on the airship boss.
Yeah,
Oh,
he's pretty challenging. At this point, you're still playing Shovel Knight.
yep.
Yeah, it's a really solid campaign, and I didn't enjoy Plague Knight quite as much. You have to think very differently, but the whole Spectre Knight is pretty amazing as well.
Yeah, I'm betting I'm not gonna like Plague Knight that much when I get to it, because from all the video I've seen of it, you're pretty much having to go back and forth in menus constantly to get your different bombs ready for different situations.
Yeah, I mean, you could do that. I generally just stick to one and leave it, but you have to think in a very different way when you make attacks. Since all your attacks kind of like go downward.
Mm.
And it's kind of like that with Spectre Knight too, but I feel like Spectre Knight being more melee based and it's really more of like a Ninja Gaiden homage. I feel
Cool.
like it's a little easier for me to wrap my head around than Plague Knight. I really enjoyed a lot of the humor in the Plague Knight campaign though. It's got this really little fun side story that happens. It happens parallel to the whole Shovel Knight campaign, so you
Mm.
kind of see the two interact. So like when you go into the Plague Knight level, instead of fighting Plague Knight yourself, you end up fighting Shovel Knight at the same time.
Oh, that sounds so fun.
Yeah, there's a lot of little fun things like that. Yes, I totally would recommend anybody play that game. If you're a fan of old school like games at all, it like I'm sure you'll bite me up on this. Like it matches the style perfectly. The music to the graphics to everything really just it makes it look like an old school Capcom like Mega Man game.
And the soundtrack is addicting.
Yes, yes. Vert is amazing, of course. I still go back and just listen to songs by themselves.
What
Uh,
system are you playing it on, Bill?
PC.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
I didn't know where it was all available, because I think the only place I've personally seen it available is on the Switch, unless I dreamed that.
No, it's on the Switch now.
Okay.
Yeah, it's on the Switch, on PC, and on all major
Yeah.
consoles.
Yeah,
Oh,
it's
cool.
everywhere. And the cool thing is, like, depending on what version you get, there's slightly different things. So, like, with the 3DS version, they had a Street Pass mode. With the PlayStation version, they had I think it was Kratos as an unlockable or no extra boss.
Oh,
Yeah,
neat.
Yeah,
That's
with
cool.
the Xbox version, I think they had the Battletoads for some reason. And the Wii version was the first to introduce multiplayer. Like that's the only way you could play it up until I think the most recent thing they added it to all the versions.
yeah, you can do co-op in the PC version.
Yeah,
And the other
yeah.
thing too that I love about it is you can gender swap.
Oh right, yeah, they added the Gender Swap mode, so everything's a little bit different.
Yeah. And then
Yeah,
oh, go ahead.
I was gonna say like I just picked up a Switch myself, and I'm considering double dipping. I've already played the entire game, but to have it portable would be a really great thing.
Mm. That down the road, people, I think the just talking about the Switch, because it's amazing to me just the sales of the Switch and just people were buying games again just because of the portability factor.
Yeah. Yep.
Mm.
And I think skipping the Wii U for a lot of people also, they're pretty much a lot of these people are seeing these games for the first time. So with Mario Kart 8, Splatoon, they're not really big new games. They're kind of rehashing a lot of the same concepts, if not straight up remakes. But the fact that a lot of people just didn't play it.
Come on, Smash Wii U. Come
Yeah,
on. Come to
I'm
the
ready for
Switch.
it.
It will come in due time.
And then a minor thing is I got a new figure. I got a beautiful Inspector Zenigata figure from third.
Woo!
Yep,
Nice.
I had to wait a very long time for it, but it was worth it because I only had to pay a small fee on it, like $20, which
Oh
was a
man.
steal. And now I pretty much have everyone in the Lupin gang except Jigen.
Oh, so you have a Goemon as well?
Yes, I have a Goemon, and I have 2 Fujikos.
Nice. Yeah, because I know you picked up the one Fujiko at Ichiban Con.
Yep, she's gorgeous.
Cool.
Yep, and so
Well,
that's what I'm consuming.
mhm. I finished up watching Mystery of Mamo last night, and in preparation for doing that podcast today, but Sully unfortunately got the flu, so he wasn't able to do that today. So that's why we're doing this One Piece convo, which is gonna be fun anyway. But over to you, Tobias. So what have you been you've been consuming since we last spoke
So,
about such things?
so on the anime front, I've kind of taken a little slow between doing the conventions and some cons coming up. I just really haven't gotten back into watching the whole stuff week to week. So I did catch up with Pop Team Epic because I was a couple episodes behind, and again, it's still really amazing. Still highly endorse that show. But I still got to catch up on Darling and the Franks, and even Place Further in the Universe. I really haven't kept up on, and of course, I want to like actually start Takagi-san and Laid Back Camp. I've seen all these people post about it, but I haven't really got around to it. So hopefully that'll change maybe this weekend, a little bit of free time.
Mm-hmm.
But I did, yeah, like I said, I did just pick up a Switch. Really Jones and play Breath of the Wild again. So I didn't never touch the DLC. So went ahead and jumped on that because I'm going to be getting Hyrule Warriors when that comes out, another Wii U remake, and a couple other games as well. So it's just kind of been on my list to eventually pick up. But
Cool.
yeah, that's pretty much what I've been doing in my free time is playing Breath of the Wild again. Never stop.
And in a couple years, both you and I will finish it.
Yeah, so at this point, you never finished it?
No, I've played a good decent amount of like the beginning. Like I've poured a good handful of hours into it. I just haven't like really gotten into the meat of the game yet.
Oh yeah, it definitely
Yeah.
takes a lot of just time to do things.
Yeah, it does. And like for every like hour I spent playing Breath of the Wild, it was like 1 hour where I knew that I should be trying to finish Final Fantasy 15 because that was
Yeah.
like the game I committed to finishing, and then I've been committed to finishing that game for over a year now, and I just play video games at like a slug's pace.
Yeah,
Um,
same here.
yeah, like
I
it
don't.
sucks. I really that's definitely on my perpetual like New Year's resolution list is to like get better at playing and finishing video games. And I'm almost done with Final Fantasy 15, so I feel like if I actually finish that game, it'll open up a whole new realms of possibility for me to procrastinate on yet other games.
Yeah, I saw you were playing that this week. You posted some screenshots and stuff. How's that going? Are you pretty far in that at this point?
I am. I'm in the next to the last chapter, and it's a little bit too difficult for where I am currently leveled up to, but but the game allows you to like go back to previous things and do a whole bunch of like side quests to get more like money and experience and all that stuff. So that's kind of what I'm doing right now. I'm grinding and fighting monsters and doing little side quests and things. But overall, I really enjoy it. I think the character interactions are really awesome. Like all of the characters are great, especially the main four. Like some of the side characters, I feel like they're not quite as realized as they could be. and like the overall plot is really nothing that special, even though I don't think it's bad or anything. I kind of appreciate them taking more of a simpler route in telling this story rather than something like 13, which is so like grandiose and complicated. But yeah, the story of 15 is fairly straightforward. Like Noctis is the prince, and then there's a crystal that is stolen, and he has to defeat the bad guy. And it's not like a dumb story. It's not like this is too simple, but they did a lot with a little. So I like seeing that.
Cool.
Yep.
How are you enjoying the gameplay for that? That's the one thing I'm really interested in trying it.
I really enjoy the gameplay. Like, it's kind of a mix, kind of a weird way to describe it. It's kind of like a mix between the Batman Arkham games and Kingdom Hearts, which I know is very difficult to like visualize. But you know how like Bill, you've played the Arkham games, right?
Yeah,
I have to.
I've played them all.
Okay, so yeah, you guys will know. But like, you know how when like bad guys like shoot at you or like lunge for you or anything like that, you can like press a button and then you'll like quickly dodge and stuff like that.
Yeah.
That's kind of what the game plays like in terms of like close quarters combat. But like with the sword play and everything, it feels a lot more like Kingdom Hearts. Like very frenetic, very like flashy and kind of button mashy, but with the dodging mechanic, it's like you can't really button mash because the enemies aren't that stupid.
Yeah.
So it has to be that blend of like attack, dodge, but it's not quite as brutal as like Dark Souls or something like that.
Nice.
Cool.
So it's fun. I like the gameplay. John swears by the magic, but I don't touch it. That's basically what I've been up to. It's just most recently 15. I've been keeping up with a lot of the, not a lot, but some of the seasonal anime. I'm still a little bit behind, but I'll get there. But I guess we've rambled on enough. Unless anybody has something really burning they want to address before we jump into One Piece.
No, let's go.
Wealth, fame, power. Gold Roger, the king of the pirates, attained this and everything else the world had to offer, and his dying words drove countless souls to the seas.
You want my treasure? You can have it. I left everything I gathered together in one place. Now you just have to find it.
These words lured men to the Grand Line in pursuit of dreams greater than they'd ever dared to imagine. This is the time known as the Great Pirate Era.
Come aboard and bring along all your hopes and dreams. Together we will find everything that we're looking for. One Piece.
All right, Bill. So you have a journey that began. What was it, like 2 years ago at this point?
Yeah, like 2 years ago. I was in college, and I've heard of One Piece, notably for when it was airing on Kids WB, and we'll get to that.
Yeah.
It's wonderful stuff. And I'd always been curious because I had not really attached myself to a super long shonen show like Bleach or Naruto. I don't really count Dragon Ball Z because I kind of watched that as a kid, and I kind of was in and out when it came to Z. Like I watched the Namek arc, and I watched Cell, but after that, I just dropped off.
Yeah.
So I asked my friend Michael. Shout out to Michael. Hey, I want to try One Piece out because he had watched it up to a certain point, and he said, okay. And so from that point on, we pretty much marathoned it. Where if I wasn't doing work, I was watching One Piece.
And then doing this took you how long?
About a year and a half.
Wow.
Yeah. But
And I remember those days because I was around whenever you started that train and really got into it, even though I think a good portion of it you did during the summer. But
No, we took breaks during the summer.
oh yeah, that's right, because Michael was just like, "No, you can't watch it without me," or something, right?
I think so, and the other reason was I think he was fearful of like we'd eventually get caught up and then be stuck in the weekly grind, which is where I'm at now.
What a crazy fear to be afraid that you will catch up with One Piece too quickly.
But I will get into that. But I want to ask you two, what is your experience with Peace?
Go ahead, Tobias.
So I've seen a little bit of it, like way back when I really started to get back into anime, in college. Watched a couple episodes with a friend of mine that was into it at the time. Uh, Maybe about the first 10 or so, if that. So I'm familiar with the main characters, the main idea. But is anyone who really follows anime at all, you kind of can't not know about One Piece naturally, with this people talking about how long it's running. And I think I'm echoing Austin's. I was, but I'm not now.
Nice.
But anyway, uh, yeah. So you kind of can't not hear about One Piece just being involved in the community, and it's one of those things that a lot of people whose opinions I respect have really gone on about and talked about a lot. So it's one of the things that I think I would like to try. But like you mentioned, there's this whole daunting aspect to picking up this 20-year-old series and trying to absorb it all, and have a job and have a life and sleep and breathe and do all that necessary stuff. It definitely comes off as a daunting task.
How about yourself, Austin?
So a lot of my experience with One Piece has been your experience with One Piece, like absorbing it secondhand, or you just like telling me about it and like chronicling your journey through just just telling me how it's going and stuff like that. So I was definitely I guess to my own discredit, I was very like dismissive of One Piece until you got into it, and I think that's just because I didn't really have anyone around me who was like really into it or like really understood it. So I just sort of saw it as like, oh, why would I ever want to watch One Piece when I could watch, 30 other very short shows or something like that. And
Right.
it's only been like recently where I've come to see like through other people experiences and like talking about it, sort of what Tobias said, like seeing the value of One Piece and like seeing like that it's actually kind of cool. But that being said, in terms of how much I've personally watched, probably the same-ish amount as Tobias has. I've seen like maybe 7 or 8 episodes, just to sort of get an idea of what it's like. And I enjoyed them a lot. Like I found them very entertaining, but I also saw it as something that I just still didn't really want to, dive firmly into. So maybe you can convince me that I'm wrong. So
That is the goal here, because I love One Piece. It's one of my favorite animes I've watched. Um, and I can understand that it's a daunting task. There's over 800 episodes. There's 85 volumes of the manga. There's games. There's movies. There's OVAs. I'm here to tell you that anyone can get into One Piece, and it's not as scary as you think it is. So, first, let me give everyone kind of a little bit of background about One Piece. For those who don't know, One Piece is a manga created by Ichiro Oda in December of 1997. One Piece is a pirate-themed shonen manga about our main character, Monkey D. Luffy, whose main goal is to become king of the pirates and to find the mythical treasure called One Piece, which was the treasure left by Gold D. Roger, the last great pirate king. Um, Now, by that simple premise, you would think, well, it's pretty linear, but no, by its nature, it's an epic spanning adventure because it's world traveling. Um, where as the adventures go on, Luffy builds up his own crew of pirates called the Straw Hats, each with their own individual goals and what they want to accomplish and their own backstories. And the thing that I love about One Piece is it's an epic adventure tale that it's a living world compared to, like, let's say Dragon Ball or Z, where big scary bad guy comes down, the Z fighters must fight it to save the world. There's much more to One Piece than just fight the bad guy.
So, Luffy, why don't you tell me a little about your friends? I don't know a thing. Of course, you don't have to if you don't want to. I'm just making conversation. It's not like I'm trying to dig into your personal life and find out every little thing about you.
Okay, which one should I start with? Zoro, Sanji, Usopp, there's Brook, Frankie, Nami, Robin.
Nami? Robin? Those sound like girls' names.
They are. You're watering the table, you know.
And just to kind of give you guys some really interesting stats, One Piece is the best-selling manga of all time. It has over 345 million volumes of the manga in circulation in over 30 countries.
Jeez.
Yeah. And I think just from that stat alone, it shows that if there wasn't interesting characters or a story, then this wide circulation wouldn't be going on today. And also, that was recently announced, I think last year, there's going to be a Western adaptation of One Piece coming.
What?
What does
Yep.
that mean?
It's going to be a TV series.
Like, when you say Western, do you mean like John Wayne or do you mean like America?
America.
Okay.
America and UK, like ITV, which is the second biggest British broadcaster next to the BBC, is involved. This producer, I forget his name. His works vary to varying degrees of good to bad. In my opinion, like his credits include Prison Break, which was a good show back in the day, and Teen Wolf from MTV, which whatever. But from what they've said about it, it's going to be we're gonna do a faithful retelling of One Piece for a Western audience and make it live action. I don't know how that's possible because one, there's a lot of material to get through, and with live action actors, there's this thing called aging. I don't know if you've heard of it. So if they're trying to get through all the material, that's going to be very interesting because they're starting all the way back at the beginning.
Man.
So I wish them luck, and I'm excited if this thing actually gets off the ground. Because I think with how it's a grand epic tale, kind of in the vein of Star Wars kind of deal, it might gain a pretty good followings, but we'll see.
So at this point, we really shouldn't expect like a Game of Thrones, adaptation, really dark, gritty.
Well, I think people underestimate One Piece because they see the outlandish characters and they see Luffy and they think, oh, it's just a straight up comedy. But no, in the show there are some truly moments of heartbreak and sadness and darkness that I'm willing to admit I've cried multiple times throughout the series.
So I guess that opens up the question. It's just like, well, you outlined that, like One Piece is like, it's a huge bestseller, like it's popular in Japan and in the rest of the world. Like it's just an absolute success. So like how and why? Like what about One Piece like makes it work so well? And like how has it been excuse me. How has it been able to like survive the test of time and like content, because it's just so massive?
Well, I think it's because of how universal the story is and its characters and their goals. For example, Luffy wants to be the best pirate in the world. Sanji, the cook of the Straw Hats, wants to be the best chef in the world. Nami wants to be able to map the entire world. And with those kind of universal themes, people get attached, especially when you hear kind of their backstories, because their backstories really tie into what they believe in and what they want to do in their life. And I think the other thing that helps is they all have their own individual goals, but because they're very universal, they're not kind of stuck in like, oh, I need to stay in this area. It kind of allows them to go on this uh, global journey. And the themes of the show are very can be kind of seen by everyone, like follow your dreams, never giving up, have conviction in what you believe in. So I think it's just a tale that everyone across the world can relate to. Um, like a prime example for characters, if you don't mind, um, would be Nami. The big thing with Nami is she loves money and she wants to explore the world. Um, but if I had to give her a comparison, she'd be like Catwoman or Batman or like kind of like Fujiko from Lupin the Third.
Hmm. So you earlier you made the comparison to Star Wars, and just there you kind of made the comparison to Batman, and like those are also very like worldwide like famous franchises. So you feel like it shares like a similar spirit or like a similar space with those like mega franchises that most places around the world really like click with.
Yeah, I would totally agree with that statement.
Okay.
Just because it connects to everywhere. But to kind of give you the reason why Nami's the way she is I need to kind of go into a little bit of her backstory.
Okay.
Um, so Nami growing up, she didn't have a biological mother and father. She was adopted um, by this kind of scruffian kind of woman who was a former Navy / Marine officer. The Navy in One Piece is like basically the global military force.
Makes sense.
Um, and so she had a very happy childhood at first and enjoyed her time with her adopted mother and sister and grew a passion of wanting to uh, kind of map things out and just kind of figure out where is everything located. Um, but then one day, this group of pirates called the Arlong Pirates came to their village and said, "We will kill everyone unless you pay us." Where I think if I remember correctly, it was over like 10,000 berries, which is the currency in One Piece per person, or 100,000 berries. And so what happens is everyone is able to pay for everyone except um, Nami's mom, who, because she's a former Marine, she doesn't really make a lot of money. Um, so she chooses to give what money she has to Arlong and say, "Look, save my daughters. I will be a sacrifice. I'm willing to sacrifice myself to keep them alive." And so Nami, at a very young age, I think she's like 8 or younger, sees her mother be shot in the head by the Arlong pirates.
Jeez.
Yeah,
Brutal.
and the Arlong pirates basically say, "Well, we now control your village." Nami resents this, wants to get them out, and she's trying to figure out what she can do. So she goes to Arlong, who's the head of this pirate group, and says, "Look, I will help you map out the world and join the Arlong pirates. In my servitude, I will get money, and if I pay you, I think it was 20 million berries, you will let the town go." And Arlong agrees to this. And so this causes resentment among the city, among her people in the village, of how could you work with this traitor who killed your mom and is trying to and just putting us into slavitude. And so that's kind of where she gains her value of money. And from there, um, throughout this, in the early entries of the story, she kind of pops up here and there where Luffy is, and Luffy kind of grows interested in her. But eventually, when Luffy gets to her native home, um, Luffy finds out what's going on and says, like, this is wrong. But Nami, to her credit, believes that Arlong will keep his word, um, knowing fully well that this isn't going to happen. And the townspeople uh, kind of realize, like, they revealed to Nami, like, we knew what you were doing, that this was a sacrifice that you took on when you were just 8 years old, and we can't let you do this anymore. We're gonna go fight the Arlong pirates. We're going to kick them out finally after being years of slaves to them. And so it's a very one of the most powerful arcs in One Piece.
Wow. So,
Yeah.
in general, I can imagine the way these things work. The manga probably starts off portraying Nami as being a little more greedy, like just wanting the money for money's sake. But then we discover this in a later chapter where, like, this whole backstory comes out, and that she's not so much doing it, in that stereotypical greed, but because she's got this connection with this family.
Yeah, and that's kind of where everyone gets their connections, is through their backstory of, like, Sanji, for example, who's the chef. He was on a Navy boat, and when a pirate crew kind of took board of it, a big storm hit. He got in the water, and a shark was about to go into him when the pirate captain, who was ransacking the ship, jumped overboard and saved him, sacrificing his leg in the process. And they were able to get away on this island where they had a little bit of food, but um, from what Sanji's perspective, there was two bags, one bigger bag for the captain who saved him, and then just a small food bag for himself. And it's revealed that the pirate gave all the food to Sanji, and while they were waiting to be rescued, and so he kind of learns the value of, and just he kind of gains his love of food and why he wants to cook it. But that I'm kind of going on long about this, but a lot of characters, even villains, have very empathetic backstories that are very heartbreaking, and this is a recurring theme throughout One Piece.
Mm-hmm.
And it makes you care about these characters, and it makes you understand their motivations.
Awesome.
So I assume that, like, the manga and the show, like, they slowly reveal these things, like, over time, or do they sort of be like, oh, this is this character's arc, and we're going to tell you all about them for, like, these, I don't know, 10 episodes or something like that? Or is it like we slowly learn more and more about these characters as time goes on? Like, how does the show, like, tell their stories?
Okay, so there's a very firm structure of how the way I would describe it or give an example, it's kind of like Dragon Quest, if any of you have played that, where the Straw Hat Crew, kind of like the main character in a Dragon Quest game, goes to a new island, explores kind of their unique culture, where each island kind of has their own unique theme. Like, one island, it could be straight out of Babes in Toyland. One can be winter themed. One can be kind of Caribbean based.
Okay.
And then after they've kind of explored through exploring the island, they kind of grow and meet the main characters of that arc. Then this eventually leads to the Straw Hats getting in trouble with whatever authority is on that island, and having been framed or in trouble, they have to deal with usually a big bad and his sub bosses, who are usually holding court over said island and kind of subjugating the people. This is a common theme in like their early seasons and even later past time skip, which is in like the 600s. So I kind of describe it as it's Dragon Quest meets kind of Mega Man boss structure. Because the way it works out is the Straw Hats have to fight all the sub bosses of the big boss, and then Luffy usually, if always, has to fight the big boss.
So does it kind of like wash, rinse, repeat in that sense?
It can, but the characters are so kind of fully realized that you kind of get used to the structure after a while. And the way it kind of stretches out is there's two types of arcs. There's ones that are very quick and that are kind of self-contained, and then there's more kind of story continuity, world-changing events like the Alabasta arc, which is like the first big arc after you're introduced to the main Straw Hat crew. That those events have world-changing effects, and also can introduces a very big main character. And then immediately after that is Sky Island, which is very self-contained, but has connections to the overarching story, but they're not world-changing.
So is it like Doctor Who?
Yeah, if you just take the Britishness and the time travel out of it, is the way I would put it.
So just
Um,
replace the TARDIS with a pirate ship, and replace the Doctor with a very stretchy boy, and
yeah,
and his
but
amazing friends.
I guess the one thing that amazes me is while it's a recurring structure, Oda has stated, like, I have had this planned out since day one. I know the ending. It's not like other shonen manga writers, like kind of Akubo from Bleach, where he kind of just made up crap on the fly.
Mm-hmm.
He knows where it's going, and there's internal logic with the world of how things work and why things are certain ways. Like a prime example would be the devil fruit powers, which are basically your superhero like powers that pirates can have. Where if you eat devil fruit, you cannot go into water, you will immediately sink and drown.
Hmm.
And each devil fruit has different unique powers. Like as you said, like Luffy, our main character, is made of rubber, so he can stretch all the way out. Or Don Flamingo, who is a big bad later on, he has the power of strings, which you think is pretty minuscule, but no, it's very much like he's a puppeteer able to control people with his strings, his string ability. Or and they'll also have weird kind of things like, how does this work? Like in the most recent arc, there's a fight, there's a boss that Luffy has to fight where he ate the cracker fruit. Where basically the cracker fruit is it's his own armor, and he can do basically soldier copies of his armor that will fight with him against Luffy. And so you'll get kind of fun, kind of like, how does that power work with the devil fruit powers?
Mm-hmm.
And it's always kind of funny to hear kind of the different powers you'll get, and you'll think, how does this power be so, get so powerful? Horrible wording on my part.
So
But
far, of what you've experienced in One Piece, what do you think is the most interesting of these devil fruit powers?
are you asking like what's the most interesting power?
Yeah, like an example of a really interesting, like you mentioned the Don Flamingo with the strings, and that's pretty out there. I kind of figured with Luffy they would be doing more personal superhero-esque abilities, but have something specific like strings is kind of a little interesting, a little out there. So, of the ones you've experienced, what do you think is the most kind of outrageous or interesting power?
Probably Kuma, who is a war who it works for the Marines, and his power is the pom pom fruit. Basically, like a kitten with palms. So you think at first like, oh, this guy's easy. He'll be easily taken down. But no, basically he's able to absorb any blow that comes to him and is able to then dish it back. Or one of the major admirals, I forget his name. There's a lot of One Piece characters where he's basically made of light, where he can just go anywhere, zoom like the speed of light, and then fire off kind of Kamehameha waves of light at you, and there's no way you can attack him because he has no physical grounding.
Interesting.
Hmm.
But
Well, in that
anyway,
context, then the way that you've no, go ahead.
I feel bad because I feel like I've been ranting here. So
No, you're
Yeah.
fine. This is kind of like the Bill rants about One Piece podcast. So it's basically the idea. So yeah, rant on. But I do have a question.
Sure.
Okay, so in the way that you've described it so far, it seems like One Piece's structure, like I keep comparing it to things, as I think about them, but it seems a lot like American comics. Like let's just take Spider-Man. Like he has a massive rogues gallery, and like you learn more about like Peter Parker as a person as the comics go on, but I guess and like all of the new villains are introduced and side characters and all that stuff, and it just continually builds this bigger, more crazy world. But I guess with One Piece it's a lot different because it's like with American comics it's like you get a team of writers that will work on a story or a character for a period of time, and then they'll be done and it'll be somebody else. But this has been like the same guy for over 20 years, so it's really interesting that apparently he's been able to do like the same idea but keep not the same idea but like the same concept of like a super long running series, but always keep it fresh and continue to do that and build a new audience at the same time. So like I don't know. What do you think about that?
I kind of like that comparison because American comics, the problem with American comics is always stuck in that perpetual second act, where they can't go any further or the story will end.
Yeah.
Whereas with One Piece, they can just keep going because we're going across these worlds and there's different islands that we can explore and have different stories. But it feels like we're moving forward. It's not like we're stuck in one perpetual motion.
Okay.
So at this point, do you think that based on the the whole repetition structure, based on the 20 years we've had so far, do you think that it's ever really going to end?
Oda keeps giving us percentages of like where we're at.
Has there been any like actual like you mentioned there's a lot of things that happen, and I know the time skip, but is there anything that indicates that they're actually closer to the Grand Line?
Actually, well, I should have put a spoiler warning at the beginning of the episode, but
there it is.
From where we are in the show, like we know where One Piece is.
Yeah, but we knew that at the opening.
No,
this is the Grand Line.
No, the Grand Line is just a piece of sea. Like the Grand Line is like the Indian Ocean or the Atlantic Ocean.
Oh.
Okay. Where I know it's confusing. I partially blame 4Kids because they kept in the rap song that everyone hates. They say the Grand Line over and over again, but the Grand Line is just a section of the world where there's also in the beginning there's a red line, not the Great Car Race.
I love that movie.
not the great underrated movie that everyone should see.
Sweet JP.
Of course, Sweet JP.
Show up as a One Piece character.
Yeah.
We kind of have that with Frankie, kind of.
Okay.
But that's just a section of the world. It's not. It's not a particular place. It's not a thing about the Grand Line.
So I guess at this point, are they in the Grand Line? Are they past the Grand Line?
They are in the Grand Line.
Okay.
We know what island One Piece is at. That we just need to get there, and there's a particular way to get there, but they're having to get past. I'm getting into the weeds now. There's a particular way to get there that they have to kind of figure out.
Okay, so it sounds like they're in this. They have this opportunity rather to get into the final chapter at any moment.
Yeah, so Oda has stated like we're probably at 70% done or 60% done last time he was interviewed.
Okay.
So we're getting there, but it's slowly. Like 2 years ago, it was 50%. when
So
we,
another
when we were at the time skip.
so another 7 years or so, we'll maybe get to the end of One Piece.
Yeah, I'm predicting in like 10, probably 10. If we're not done in like 10 to 15 years, then I'm gonna be like this ending better be good.
Yeah, like that was going to be the next question I asked. So like, is there at this point, because there's so much content and like there's been so much and it's been such a long time, like is it even possible to write like the story so that the ending is not a huge disappointment?
At this point, I've treated it as like I'm in it for the characters. I don't really care what One Piece is. One
Right.
Piece is the magical MacGuffin
That's
that is
that's
getting
very fair.
the characters to move.
Does that seem to be like the general fan consensus too? Like, or a lot of people like, oh man, I can't wait to figure out what the One Piece is. Like, it's gonna be amazing. Or
I
are
think
people in your camp?
I think people are excited to learn whatever it is, but it's not the end all be all.
The One Piece was the friends we made along the way.
Yeah.
Probably. That's probably. What's the actual word that they used back in the Fans days? Like Kodama or no, what was it? Jesus, it's gonna kill me if I don't remember this. Bill, you know what I'm talking about.
I've
It's
I have had a bit of experience with the fan sub.
it's
I've been
it's
briefly on Crunchyroll. So.
it's the word nakama.
Oh,
Nakama. There was a big deal with the word nakama. I think it just means friends, but it was one of those words back in the day where you can't really translate it. Just like you can't translate senpai because we don't really have a word for the actual connotation for nakama.
yeah.
But
My classmate that I look up to, who is older than me, just doesn't run off the tongue quite like senpai.
Yeah, exactly. But I feel like kind of what you're saying at this point with One Piece running for so long, like most people that are in it, that have been in it for the long run, are really just in it for the characters. Based on what you're telling me, it sounds like the whole plot doesn't matter so much, as the individual characters do.
Yeah,
Mhm.
like I here's one of my prime ways to get into One Piece. Attach yourself to a character. Like for me, I love Robin, who is the scholar / historian of the Straw Hats, and her backstory, which I won't get into. But and kind of her quest to learn about the missing century or the unknown time of history that's not recorded, or that the government, world government, is keeping hidden, which I'm kind of really interested in. And so you just find a character and kind of their personality that you can attach yourself to, and that's a way you can kind of get through it.
This seems like really good advice, I think. And just going off on kind of on that, like one of my coworkers is also really big into One Piece, and what she does is that she doesn't watch it weekly. She just waits until January of every year and like marathons everything that came out that year.
That's
Um,
probably pretty smart.
yeah, that's what I was saying. I'm just like, that's genius. So you don't have to like burn yourself out watching one episode like every week for a year. Like that's a lot, but just watch it all in
Yeah.
like one big chunk at one time of the year is pretty smart. And like she will occasionally like update me on like how One Piece is doing or something. And I mean, she never really mentions anything about like the plot or like any big like revelations or anything like that. It's always about like the characters doing interesting stuff together. And What you said definitely echoes that it seems like that's more what One Piece is about anyway.
Yeah, where I think it's very much about the character interactions, and then it's kind of become a family at this point. And people care about that family, and they want to see them do well and them to accomplish their dreams and their goals.
Mm-hmm.
Um, but let me kind of run down, kind of because I've kind of explained what One Piece is and kind of why people love it, but we gotta talk about how do you get into this darn show.
Yeah, because that's kind of the beginning point.
Yeah. So, okay, the way I got into it, I started from the beginning. Now, not everyone is a crazy person like myself, but I enjoyed it all the way. But there's other ways you can get into it. Like, I have to give props to Sam Leach, who does the weekly reviews on Anime News Network for One Piece, and he does the anime recap for the One Piece podcast. Where
Oh, cool.
the way he got into it was he alternated between the anime and the manga. So, for example, if you feel like an arc is going too slow, read the manga because of manga is, as we all know, reading is usually faster than watching a TV show.
Yeah, no
Um,
doubt.
so, but if you feel like you're kind of want some more kind of heavy emotion and just enjoy the music, which is really good, Austin can attest to this. Uh, I would then go back to the show, then go back to the anime, and that's kind of the way he approached it.
Yeah, you dropped me a couple of those music tracks, and I listened to all of them today, and they're really good.
Yeah, I would say that One Piece has probably the best music out of all the shonen shows.
Mm-hmm.
Um,
I mean, I don't know. I'm a little bit biased to Bleach on that one because the same composer that composed Bleach also composed Ava, so he's still gotta be number one.
okay.
No, but like the music you sent, I mean, it didn't strike me as like particularly unique, I guess, but it's like I was listening to it, I'm thinking, yeah, I want to go on a pirate ship and go on an adventure with my friends. Like this sounds like perfect adventuring music, so it was good.
Oh, I'm glad you liked it.
Yeah.
Uh, and a bit of a tip for the show. Now, when you're marathoning it like I did, it feels like it's going at a pretty good pace. But when you're at a weekly bit, it feels slow because in comparison, One Piece has very little filler. Like fans have measured it out where Naruto and Bleach, about half of their runs when they were producing the animes for those properties were filler, whereas One Piece is only 13% filler,
That's extremely surprising.
which is like 100 episodes, uh, which is really low if you think about it with how big the episode count is. So okay, the reason that's the case is the anime has never fully caught up to the, and the way they're able to do that is they go at a much slower pace in the anime. Where, for example, in a Bleach episode, they might use maybe 2 chapters of a manga, one episode. One Piece will use 1 or like 1.5. Where
Okay.
it's a running joke within fandom where the first comment on the Crunchyroll comment board is when does the opening and recap end? Where that'll also really help is skip the opening and recap. Like once you've seen it once, or when you get back to the show, you've seen it once, you don't need to see it again. Especially if you're doing marathons. My other suggestion would be to you can actually skip arcs, but I would say be cautious with this because certain arcs are very important to One Piece. but I've skipped one arc in particular. After Alabastia, which is the first really big world arc, there's Sky Island, which I felt when I started it was kind of boring. The bad guy to me wasn't interesting, and so I just chose to skip it. And you know what? It didn't really hurt my enjoyment of the show. So if you just want to jump in the middle, like let's say you want to do Arlong, which is Nami's story, or you want to do Water 7, which is another really big arc, where the world government plays a much bigger role, and the Straw Hats kind of enter the world stage. You can start there and kind of get a feeling of how you feel about the piece.
So it seems by that description, like, it seems that the way that people need to think about One Piece is a lot different than the way people need to think about normal, like, seasonal anime, it seems. To where, by that description, it seems like, for the most part, you're able to kind of just jump into One Piece anywhere and still have a good time, even if you may, like, miss some things here and there.
I wouldn't fully recommend that, especially in the later arcs, because that you'll be a little jarred of just like, well, they looked one way and now the way the characters look are completely different, and so
Right, yeah.
that'll
yeah.
throw you off.
Yeah, I'm sure that's definitely not like a blanket statement for the whole series, obviously, but I don't know, it just seems to be a lot more fluid than, sitting down and watching something like, I don't know, Psychopaths, where if you started like episode 18, you're just going to be like, who are these people? What's going on? I don't understand.
Right. I can understand that.
So do you think that's a helpful way to like psych people into the idea of watching One Piece, that you don't have to think about it like you think about other shows? Or how would you
Yeah,
navigate that, like, psychologically, I guess?
the way I treated it is it's just a number. Ignore the number. And I know that's hard, but I just ignored the number and just enjoyed the story. And I marathoned it, but if I had it my way, I would have gone at a much slower pace and just gone my own way. Because I think that's the key is don't rush to get to the end. Because one, it's still going, and we as fans, we want to get more people into One Piece. Because out of the big three, which was Bleach and Naruto, it's pretty much a distant third. And we're always excited to get new people into the show, and I think just going at your own pace and take a break. Like if you want to go watch something else, you're more than welcome to do that. You shouldn't feel obligated to keep going even if you hate a certain arc. Just take a break from it, or if it's a certain place, maybe you could skip it and read the wiki.
Just coming as someone from the outside in, I feel like when we look at One Piece as a generational phenomenon, going on 20 years now, the whole reason they can continue to do that, just like Pokemon, for instance, another hugely long-running series, is how easy it is to jump in every arc. How that our main characters don't change all that much. I mean, we hear these little interesting bits of their story, but you can pretty much jump in at whatever whatever the modern or more recent arc would be, and that's a lot because One Piece is at heart a shonen, a manga or anime series. It's meant for children to just kind of jump into, whether they're picking up the new manga volume, Shonen Jump, or they're watching on television. To make it really easy to jump into. When you mentioned like Psychopaths, for instance, when we as Western fans think of anime, we think of it as streaming, this week to week deal or something we can binge on Netflix or when we get the DVD. But in the original format, it's more akin to like what we did growing up, where you just tune into like Toonami or the local channel and just watch whatever. Doesn't necessarily have to be in a actual linear plot. It can just be something you just watch whenever you can. And I feel like a show like that kind of has to match that format for the audience, and that really what makes it work as a long running series, I think.
Yeah, I completely agree with you on that point. And when it comes to spoilers. I think that's your own prerogative. Whatever you want to do with it, go for it. Like if you just want to read the wiki and just jump to where it currently is, cool. That's your prerogative. You want to do the thing like me and start from. But I think you're right in that you're able to jump in at any point. In American terms, it'd be like a soap opera. Where in
Yeah.
a soap opera, you should be able to jump in at any story.
Yeah, and I guess that's kind of what, like, I feel like if you ask, like, any random, like, anime fan in Japan, they would and if you ask them, like, so do you like One Piece? They'd probably be like, is the sky blue or something like that. It'd be like asking, like, an American comic book fan if they like Batman. Like, most of the time, people are going to say, yeah, I like Batman, sure. Probably because of that, like, cultural pervasiveness, and probably because they consumed it in a way that you outlined, Tobias, where, like, they just consumed it as part of their, like, media consumption rituals, like, just by watching TV sort of just randomly. And
Yeah, it's like if you mentioned Batman, like I don't think anybody really out there really dislikes Batman. But on the other hand, it's just like, he's just been like Superman. He's going on for so long now. I get the pathos. I get like the character, development, if any, with the character. But I don't particularly care about Batman. I don't really need to keep up with him as a series. We get the general idea of what it is, and that's kind of it. Likewise, One Piece, like maybe not everybody, especially in Japan, has strong feelings toward it, but it's just like Dragon Ball and Toriyama's work. It's everyone's at least culturally aware of the series.
I want to add one caveat where there are characters that come back or play a bigger role in the story and in future arcs. Like Ace, Luffy's brother, is introduced in the Alabasta arc, which is kind of early on in the show, but then he plays a major role in the War of the Best or the Marine War story arc. So there's certain things you should know, or there's a couple continuity things that will help you, and that way you won't get lost. So I would just be like, yeah, you can jump around. Just be wary of if you're gonna jump to Marine War, you might be confused, or if you jump to the Caesar the Dressrosa arc, you might get a little like, who's this person? Why are they doing this? Who is this person named Law? So I would just go with caution. Like skip around or read the wiki if you feel like you need to do that. Just be cautious about it is the way I would approach it. And if someone I think is just was a little intimidated by the TV show, I would recommend try some of the movies, because the movies are not canon; they're completely standalone. Like One Piece Gold, which came out last year, is really fun. Where the One Piece crew comes to this casino island / boat, and chaos ensues. And it's just a fun time where you see the dynamic art of One Piece, and you get just a fun one-shot story, and you get the character dynamics, but without all the continuity baggage.
Didn't Mamoru Hosoda direct one of those?
I think so. I'm not exactly sure which one though.
Yeah, that sounds really familiar. Was it not? What was the one that opens? And this may have been just a little short, but the one that's all like dancing.
Maybe that was Strong World. That was like the first big movie.
Okay. There was one that a friend of mine had shown, like the opening, or again, this could just be a little OVA, but it was all about them dancing around.
Well, doesn't One Piece Gold have like this casino feel about it or something?
Yeah, that's what I meant. Like it's a boat that's a legal island. That's basically a legal casino that the Marines have allowed to operate. And the Straw Hat Gang comes and it's like, we're gonna have fun, we're gonna explore. but then chaos ensues, and they don't get along with the people who run the house.
Hmm. So, have you seen that one that Tobias just dropped in the chat, the Hosoda one?
No, I've not. I've seen here. I haven't watched all the movies because even though I love One Piece, I just wanted to stick to what was canon most of the time, just because of time commitments. So I've seen uh, One Piece Z. I've seen Gold, and I think there's one other one I've watched, but I'm forgetting it.
So, does One Piece yet rival your love of Lupin the Third?
It's up there.
Ooh, wow.
I would say it's in the top. My top 3 is weird. Where it's Lupin the Third, One Piece, and Sword for Truth.
Oh, jeez. Bill, you're a strange man.
I know. Look at my top 10 list.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, I was under the impression that your favorite anime was Hearthstone, so.
Yeah.
Well, if you know what, if Yu-Gi-Oh can get an anime, I think Hearthstone deserves it.
Oh my gosh.
Hey, we're in Tangent Town. So
Sorry.
Of all
I-
things.
I based on what I've described to you, where's your standing on One Piece, and would you at least try it?
Who do you want to go first?
Let's go to Tobias.
So yeah, you talk a lot about mostly the narrative structure and the narrative elements, but one thing that really interests me from what I've seen is there seems to be a lot of really standout like framing and visual elements in the manga that I've heard a lot of other people talk about. So on Twitter, for instance, I follow Casey Panofsky article who posts a lot of One Piece. I think he's also helped with, if not on the One Piece podcast. Than that, and then we've got Grant with the Blade Licking Thieves podcast. He's been reading it too, and he'll make a point to really post really interesting panels, like these standout panels, that are just really great action scenes or something that is really interesting. And seeing a lot of these elements that Oda has used over the years and is still developing, in his style was really interesting to me. So, I've had a lot of people talk to me about it and mention it, and having the huge amount of material ahead of me is daunting. But no, I think I wouldn't mind going and reading the manga at least. Maybe not watching it at this point because I've already got way too much anime, and like you said, anime takes longer just to absorb because that reason. While manga is a little faster, just in the actual general.
Yeah.
What's the word? Like actual consumption. It's manga's a little faster consumption with absorbing that. So I think that's something I would be interested in for sure.
Right. Well, let me do a quick comment on the manga. My experience with the manga is I've mostly been with the anime. Read a couple of the early volumes of the manga, but I've always kind of looked in to see what the art style is currently with the current art. And the thing that I love is Oda's style evolves over time, where in the beginning it's very simplistic, but as time goes on, his art style gets more and more dynamic, and there's tons of stuff going on. Like in the one piece of art I showed you, like in the chat, uh, you could just see it's a picture of Luffy just going using his Devil Fruit ability to just pistol whip someone with his arm, and you see just it whip around, going all crazy. And that's the cool thing with everyone's abilities. There's the still frame of a manga can really create cool panel shots, and just the way it flows with panel direction. Like a prime example would be instead of a character talking to one another, Luffy will just jump down from a tree where he's hanging upside down and just make the person jump. And you see that through the panel work. In a normal show, he would just walk. He would just walk up to said person and just say hello.
Right.
Where you're seeing just really cool angles and really cool still frames of just the action at hand. But Austin, what about you? And what, based on what I've said, are you interested in One Piece a little bit?
So I mean, you and I have had this conversation before, sort of on and off, since you kind of started getting into it, and I asked you like how it was going and all that. So I think you've definitely helped me sort of foster an appreciation for One Piece that I didn't really have before and never really had a way to get before because I didn't really have much exposure to it because I either A, like consciously tuned it out, or B, just didn't have anybody that I could really ask about it directly. But the way that you've laid it out, I feel like you've made it seem a lot more accessible than I previously thought that it was. So I'm definitely up for probably checking out maybe a couple handfuls of episodes like every now and again. But I don't see it as something that I'm going to like sit down and focus like a lot of time and attention into. But I definitely see it as something that um I used to do this a couple of years ago. Like whenever I was like doing something or like cleaning my room or something like that, I would just turn on Fairy Tale and you know, doing that, I ended up watching like 50 episodes of that show and like didn't even, it felt like no time had passed by. But I feel like if I do that with One Piece, I would probably A, enjoy it more, and B, like get through substantial amounts of it while also cleaning my room, which is a mess. um,
Right.
so I feel like it's that this show is the type of show that I would enjoy for something like that, like something for me to just like have on and enjoy and not really like pour a whole lot of mental energy into. And it doesn't seem like that require it, like the show doesn't really require that of the audience, and I think that that can definitely be a really good thing for certain shows.
Mm.
And kind of like what you were saying earlier with the way that they map out some of the action scenes, like the show definitely seems extremely imaginative, and I'm sure it definitely has its dull moments and things like what you said with the filler arcs that are just like, not particularly awesome. But it seems like it keeps up the level of like visual style and interest like pretty consistently. So I think that that would be something that I would look forward to seeing, like, oh, what sort of like crazy villain is going to come up next, and like what are their henchmen going to look like, and I know that with this style of One Piece, it's going to be a little bit more out there because every single character looks like they were created by like a person like entirely left to their own devices to just make a character, and then all of those characters were like thrown into the same show because they all look so wacky and different. So
Yeah, like I think the closest comparison to its One Piece's weirdness would be like JoJo.
yeah.
Uh, just because each character is unique and has their different perspective, but it's just weird. But that's what
Mhm.
makes, I think, One Piece unique and really exciting.
Right, and I'm definitely a big JoJo fan. So if you take anything and compare it to JoJo, that's probably gonna be a big selling point on my end.
Um, well, before we wrap this up, I have to mention the Four Kids dub. I
Oh
have to.
yay!
Do you really have to? Is it really necessary?
This won't be long. I just want to put this out there. The thing I think that kind of hurt One Piece's popularity was definitely the Four Kids dub. It's not of good quality, and it's heavily censored. Like a prime example, or the most well-known example, is Sanji. He smokes,
Yeah.
and so instead of having a cigarette, he had a lollipop.
So edgy.
So edgy, man. In the Four Kids dub. So, Bo, I would recommend, if you're more of a person who wants a dub, Funimation has been doing the dub for a while now. Kids closed its doors. I would say the Funimation dub is pretty solid. There's some voices that are not my favorite, like Colin Clinkenbeard does the voice of Luffy, and it doesn't fit for me. But it might be different for you. And Chris Sabat, constant at Funimation, does Zoro the sword fighter, and Sunny Strait does Usopp, who is kind of the scaredy cat of the crew, and is also kind of the long range bowman of the group.
Cool.
Yeah, so and also the dub is not completely caught up with where the show's at.
You know, it's so funny to think that like Funimation right now for this particular season is like dubbing, shows that are currently coming out and they're only like maybe 3 weeks behind. But like with a show like One Piece that they've been dubbing for like literally years and years and years, they're still like 2 arcs behind, which is it's kind of weird to think about that the juxtaposition of like they're still doing the One Piece like they did back in the old days, but they're doing like all this new stuff like immediately. It's kind of funny to think about.
Yeah, well, I think that's more on Funimation because they're going through so much content and they're a relatively small company,
Hmm.
so things will get delayed. I mean, remember when they announced all the Bandai licenses like Outlaw Star, Bebop, and it took years to come out.
Oh yeah, you're right, and I totally understand. Like I get why, and it makes sense like why they're not caught up with One Piece. Like I get it, but it's just the idea of it and thinking about it in that context to where like we have a complete dub of Miss Kobayashi's Dragon Maid before like the last 5 or 6 seasons of One Piece are dubbed. So it's just a weird thing to
Yeah.
think about. So
Well, I think my last point is I'm just amazed that One Piece is still going, and it's pretty much the last standing big shonen show that is continuously running. Like if you think about it, Attack on Titan had to take a break to get season 2 in production.
thank goodness.
My Hero Academia, same thing,
That's gonna
and
be in the new big 3 for sure.
and the other and Bleach is dead at the moment.
Yep.
Only long running show that I would think is still going, but I wouldn't classify this as shonen. It would be Gintama,
Mm-hmm.
which I just find it amazing that Toei has been able to keep that production going on for so long.
Mm-hmm.
But for both Gintama and One Piece.
It seems like they're kind of similar in the idea that like the characters, they go through changes and they progress, but they relatively stay the same, and like each episode is like just a wacky adventure. So it seems like One Piece and Gintama have a like a kindred spirit in that way.
It's the same show but different age groups.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, I'm glad that you guys let me get my ranting out of my way and let me fan out about One Piece. I appreciate that.
Yeah, of course.
And
Really enjoyed it. You proved 2 groups of people wrong at the same time in what you said. You proved the One Piece naysayers wrong, and you also proved the One Piece gatekeepers wrong. And I think that you did a great service in doing both of those things.
thanks. Well, I want to take it out to our audience on Twitter and on Facebook. What has been your experience with One Piece, if you've had any, or is there a long running series or a series that you've tried to get people into, but it's just not clicked? And I just love to hear everyone's thoughts on our Facebook page and on Twitter.
Me too. And if you guys, we would love to talk to you about that and hear your stories on if you've got One Piece stories of like trying to get your friends into it, or if your friends have tried to get you into it and how that's gone, or like what Bill said, like with any series really. Yeah, that would be great. And if you guys want to tweet at us about that, we're at TI_anime on Twitter. So are we good to wrap up, guys? So got anything else?
Yeah, sounds good to me.
Cool.
Yeah.
Well, thank you guys both for joining me, and Bill, thank you for preparing your content and really giving us a great rundown on One Piece, a show that's super important, I know, to you. So it's always great to hear people talk about stuff that they're really passionate about.
I appreciate it, man, and thanks for giving me the floor.
Yeah, for sure. And I'm sure this probably inevitably will not be our last time talking about One Piece on this podcast.
If that live action adaptation ever comes out in 2 years, that's going to be an episode.
Yeah, we'll definitely have to try and get that. So, Tobias, thank you for being here.
Yeah, thanks for having me again.
If you guys want to talk to us more about anime and stuff, you can find us over on Facebook at facebook.com/thirdimpactanime. Also, all of our articles and podcast updates and panel descriptions. Well, not that. I need to put that up on the site. But anyway, you can find out all that junk at our website, thirdimpactanime.wordpress.com. And again, where can people find us or find you on Twitter, Tobias?
I am, as usual, at Reverend_Tobias, both there and on Facebook. If anyone wants to look up my awful opinions and awful dad jokes, hit me up there.
Yeah, and Bill doesn't have a Twitter, so we need to keep bullying him until he makes one.
Bill,
I'm Mr. Old Man. I'm not getting on that newfangled Twitter.
Tobias is the resident old man, and he's the one that uses Twitter the most.
Yeah. No, you totally should. You should get a Twitter. There's a lot of the old school anime fan or dedicated like One Piece fans hanging out there.
And you can talk about Lupin and One Piece to the masses.
Yeah.
Ooh, that's exciting. Well, if you're interested in me, I publish as much as I can on our website, thirdimpactanime.wordpress.com, where we write wonderful articles. We've had episode reviews of this current season, and we are just keep churning out content.
Yep, we're doing our best, even when our best is not our best. But anyways, thanks everybody for listening, and we'll see you in the next one. Have a good night.
So you're leaving?
Yeah, it was a nice extended vacation, but we have to part ways now. I bet you'll miss me, right?
Yeah, but this time's different. I won't beg you to take me with you, because I'm gonna become a pirate all on my own.
I wouldn't take you with me anyway. You'll never make it as a pirate.
No! I will make it as a pirate! Someday I'm gonna gather a crew even better than yours, and I'm gonna find the greatest treasure in the world! And then I'll be king of the pirates! I'll show you!
You think you'll surpass us? In that case, I'll leave this hat to you. It means more to me than anything in the world, so you better take good care of it. You hear me? I want you to bring this hat back to me someday, in good condition. And only once you've become a great pirate. That's our promise, Luffy.